Hello and welcome to everyone out there in the Actual Tech Media audience. Thanks so much for joining us on today's webinar. The topic is how to elevate your data enrichment, tips and techniques. The event today is brought to you in partnership thanks to our friends at Precisely. Now, before we get started, there's just a few things that you should know about this event. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as the host and moderator. As always, we want these events to be educational, and we want to help you to get the most out of this event. So we encourage you to ask questions there in the questions pane of the audience console, and we'll be doing a live Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so keep those questions coming throughout. We even have a best question prize. I'll talk about that more here in just a moment. But first, I want to encourage you to also check out the Handouts tab. It's there that you'll find some hand-selected resources by our presenter. So make sure that you check those out for additional information on the Precisely solution. At the end of the webinar, it'll be my pleasure to announce the winner of our Amazon $250 gift card. If you're watching this event recorded or on demand, of course, that drawing would have already occurred. The prize terms and conditions can be found right there in the Handouts tab. And then, as I mentioned, we also have our Best Question prize. This is for an additional $50 Amazon gift card. You do have to ask a question, of course, to be entered into the prize drawing, and we'll be selecting the best question at the end of the event. And with that, it's now time to bring in today's expert presenter. Let's kick it off.
Thank you very much, David, and welcome everybody. So first of all, an introduction to Precisely. We are a leader in data integrity. We provide software, data, and strategic solutions to a variety of businesses across multiple verticals. And although we might be a relatively new brand in the market, we work from a history of 50 plus years of the businesses that we are made up of. And as you can see on the screen, we have 12,000 customers, some of those names well known to most of you, I would think. And, we're a global business across 100 plus countries. So today I want to talk more around data. And I think the first thing is to talk about is modern businesses need access to more and more data. They want to be able to get more context, more deeper meaning. And the challenges there is really most of our lives start with digital. And that is a large area of customer experience, personal experience. And when we start with a digital everything, it requires good customer experience. And through that good customer experience, customers then have an expectation about how you may interact with them, the way that you are quick to be able to respond to queries, and how they are able to interact with you. Now, doing all of that, thinking about the customers, you then also got new entrants, competition you've got to think about. They may be bringing new capabilities, things that you need to be able to address quickly within your business. And as you do that, you're going to have to manage large volumes of data, be able to process that data, understand it, and be able to act upon it to be able to provide that customer experience, to meet those customer expectations, and be able to manage within a competitive environment. And part of that is being able to place the right bets. So it's really, really important that you have integrity within your data and that you can trust that data to make those decisions. And as you think through that, as a business, you probably have a first party data. The information that you hold on those customers might be name, address, phone number, things like that. But that's a limited view of the world. You understand that part of your customer. What you're able to do by looking at third party data and enrichment is to be able to bring additional information you don't know, market insights that will allow you to drive decisions. That might be looking at demographics, preferences, information about the property that they live within, the hazards natural hazards, be it wildfire or flooding that you may be those customers may be exposed to, and information around the location. And what that allows you to do by putting that first party and enrichment together is to start to deliver insights for your business. So you might be looking to understand customer behavior. You might want to improve your customer NPS scores and look at fraud, pricing, risk, all of those things that ultimately allow you to improve your decision making process. But as you go through that, there are things you're going to need to think about. And some of the common enrichment challenges you have is, first of all, the quality of data you're trying to enrich, your first party data. Is it good quality? Have you validated it? Is it organized in a way that can be understood? Simple things might be, do you have a clean address? Do you have the most up to date postcode? It's really important that you have quality within the data that you're going to enrich. And you then translate that into the quality of the data that you want to bring in to be able to add that enrichment capability and to be able to understand how that's collected, how it's maintained, and what sort of formats that it's come into. So having a lack of standard data formats, that could be, how do you structure and hold a postcode? How do you hold your address? How do you hold phone numbers? But also around the structure of that information that's coming in. You may be using multiple suppliers and they hold the same piece of information in different ways, and you need to be able to manage that lack of a standard. You also want to know that you're getting timely updates to that data. So some data updates quickly. So business data changes, on a minute by minute basis. Some data is a little bit slower. So how often maybe a postcode changes on an address. But you need to make sure that you're getting those timely updates to the data. And then it's the ability to scale that enrichment capability. So maybe processing a couple of thousand records, a few additional attributes, you then go to, hey, I need to process my entire customer base. You're looking at millions of records and you want to enrich across multiple, maybe tens, hundreds of attributes. That scale is really, really important. And we see within the surveys that we've done, most recently with our data integrity trends survey, is consistently enriching data at scale is either challenging or quite challenging for 86% of our respondents. And of those, 70% are finding it hard to get consistent view of data across multiple data formats. So it's a very, very real problem that you as customers and data consumers are having to deal with in terms of scaling up that capability. But how can you harness that data? Well, first of all, looking to match data sets that are aligned to your desired outcome. So don't go looking for every single data. Look at and understand the outcome you want. It might be, hey, I want to be able to create a marketing list. Well, what information would go into creating that? What information you might want to have geodemographics. You may want to have some preferences, but you certainly probably don't want a credit score, or you may not want a credit score, or other similar information. So make sure you understand what outcome and therefore the data that you're going to need to bring to that. And then when you're looking at bringing in that third party data, assess the quality. What's the coverage, consistency, correctness, completeness? Does it have 100% attribution across every single field? Would you expect to have 100% attribution across every single field? Does it give you national or international coverage? And, how often is that updated? As I said before, business data, changes on a very, very regular basis, other data less so. Is that data being updated at a rate that you would expect it to? And also, is it delivered at a rate that you can then manage as well? And then you need to be able to connect it to your data. So having software or process that allows you to match data into your own customer data. And there's various different ways. You might be doing an address match, you might be doing a postcode match, a email or a phone number match. So lots to think about as you look at that. And then finally is having got all of that data, you want to actually analyze it, get insights, visualize it, have the tools available to be able to do those that insight and analytics. And as we look at that, how do you then, when we look at it from a precisely point of view, we're looking to be able to provide our customers the ability to validate their data, to be able to update it, understand the quality of it, but also help enrich and drive those insights. And what we're doing at Precisely is looking to remove the complexity of that process. So if we go back to what I was saying previously, is around how do you match third-party data into your own internal data. That can be very, very complex, particularly if you're looking to exploit location context information. That might be around a property or a building footprint or a flood zone. Those spatial processes can be quite costly, they can be quite complex, and you'll require skilled people to do that. So what we're doing is looking at delivering easy to use, easy to match data, that we look at building the relationships for our customers and to delivering those in a way that is really, really easy to implement. And how we do that is by deploying unique and persistent IDs across our data, connecting it together, and associating that with an address. And with our address, there is a unique and persistent ID called the Precisely ID. We do this within a product that we call Property Graph. Really, what that does is connect disparate data sets around a property together to allow you to be able to interrogate that data without having to think about how do I link it all together. So how does an address uh, relate to a parcel, a land parcel, a building footprint? What property attributes associated with those different properties, and what sort of business is located there? And we connect that all together and then connect it out to things like our boundaries and demographics. And that connection is really, really important. And it's a lot of the value that our customers are looking to obtain from Precisely. And what that means is that you sit with your first party data and then you're able to bring in, the property data, the natural hazards. And going back to where we started is then to be able to deliver on the insights and business use cases that you want to be able to use that data for. But it's not just about simplifying the relationships, it's also around how you then use that data in those insights. And one really important area is around visualization and insights about that data. So we have a series of tools that allow you to be able to look and understand the relationships with, say, location data with customer data, to be able to understand risks and tailor those marketing messages, looking at strong strategies. And it might be as simple as, I didn't even know those two addresses might be next to each other. I didn't know that one could be exposed to flood and the other is not, just by the height that those properties are at. So lots of visualization capabilities that can be used alongside third party and enrichment data. So having talked about, how precisely we have tools to help customers be able to validate, create quality, create data integrity, to be able to enrich that data, be able to do that in an efficient an effective manner and an easy to use way. So you're spending your time analyzing, visualizing, and getting the business insights. So, what do we bring in terms of enrichment data? Well, the first thing is that we have a global portfolio of products, and they are around address and property. So, being able to look at where an address is located, the buildings, footprints that are associated with the address, the land use parcels, the property attributes, and connecting that data together. So really looking at the address and property. And we have lots of customers within insurance and financial services and telco who rely on that data to be able to help them understand risk, be able to price policies, be able to understand connectivity, so being able to link a telco capability into a property, or to be able to understand the exposure of a book of mortgages. Associated with that address and property is then the businesses. What businesses are actually associated with that address? And we do that through a global set of business data within our points of interest that provides information about what businesses are located at that address, the detailed firmographic information around those businesses, but also understanding non-legal businesses, so things like uh, train stations, railway stations, airports, um, points of leisure interest, so things like national parks or uh, things like the Eiffel Tower and those sorts of tourist attractions and such like. So having all of that information to understand the businesses, and we'll get companies looking at that to understand, an insurance company understanding exposure to risky businesses, for financial services companies wanting to understand the impact of investments or looking for being able to understand market opportunity, and also, within telco businesses, what businesses could then consume those services. Around that, we're able to align to the streets, so understanding a street that those addresses and businesses are located on, and that might be able to understand, what traffic flow is there, what limitations there might be on that street. It might be a one-way street, might have a limited height and weight access information. And then we look at, what are the locations that those addresses and businesses are within. So we bring in our boundary information, understanding, postcodes, might be neighborhoods, administrative areas, statistical geographies. And alongside those boundaries, we can understand the people that live there, so around demographics and geodemographics, so what types of people live in those locations. And then we look at risk, so understanding what natural hazards that address is exposed to, and that might be wildfire, it might be flooding or similar exposures. So as we look at all of that, what do our customers then do with that data? Well, if we look at somebody like Keller Williams, they're a global residential real estate business, and they realised that they wouldn't get far enough, they wouldn't be able to develop their business enough just relying on their own proprietary first party data. So they were looking for an organization to work with that could provide that third party enrichment data for them to be able to be much more competitive in the market. And that competitiveness is around how can they provide a better customer experience around search, and how they can provide much more sort of customer friendly interaction. And what they were able to do in this particular case was to bring in our global boundaries, our World Boundaries Premium, to be able to help that search capability. And they've really been able to use and exploit that data and to be able to deliver a much stronger customer experience. But we also see organizations, in this case RPR, that are looking for not just one data set. They're looking at consuming multiple data sets and our software to be able to provide better insights and better customer experience again. And this is a use case we see again and again where a company is looking to use our to obtain an accurate address, to be able to get an accurate location of that address, and then to be able to associate with that other context information. So it could be boundaries, could be in this case walkability, it might be around crime, might be around the people that live or visit those locations. And our customers look to bring all of those capabilities together. And as we move into sort of rounding that up, so what Precisely is able to do is provide, you know, a combination of software and data to be able to address those business cases, those business problems. You can access those capabilities through APIs and SDKs as well, and be able to also use that within a managed service. So you can look at on premise, cloud services, or if you want an organization that manages all of that for you, then Precisely is a company that can work with you to do all of those capabilities. So as you look at the overall part of this is if you're an organization that's looking to add third party enrichment, then think about how you want to interact, what sort of data that you want to get, think around the questions that you want to ask those suppliers, and really look for an organization that wants to partner with you that has good roadmaps, good development, good quality systems to provide you enrichment capabilities that are connected together, broad, and really kind of deliver on the value that you want to get out of that information. On that, we can end there around the talk. And I think, David, we've probably got some questions coming in from people that we can take a look at.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great presentation, Andy. I know this could help so many companies out there with their unique data challenges. We do have some great questions coming in. If you're out there in the audience and you have a question for Andy, now's the time to ask it because we're kicking off our Q&A. Let's see. First question I see here that came in, they want to know, can I test the data before I buy it?
First of all, I think that's a really critical thing for you as a business to do. Don't take anybody's word for what data they have. Certainly, from Precisely, we provide both samples and evaluations. And a tool that we have is if you look for the Precisely data experience, you can register and log in and download samples of our data so you can look to see, first of all, does it provide you the information, the attribution that you are looking for before, say, moving on to an evaluation of, say, an area that is of interest. But absolutely, you can access samples, get evaluations, and I would absolutely recommend you do that every single time that you are looking to access third-party data.
Yeah, great advice. I'm sure that's an important feature to a lot of folks out there being able to test it, and I don't blame them. So it's great that y'all make that possible. Let's see, second question here. They're asking, how often are your data sets updated and refreshed?
Again, a really, really good question, and it's an important one. So we refresh our data at intervals that is relative to how often that data changes. So our business data changes on is regularly updated on a monthly basis, as our full address and property portfolio, because they are data sets that are very dynamic. You then get to some other data sets, so things like our streets and our boundaries that don't update on so much of a regular basis. We can release those on either a quarterly or every 6 months. And then some of them, we update on an annual basis. But what we do is we publish how often those data sets are updated, when we update those data sets, and as a customer, All of our deliveries go via the Precisely Data experience. So if you're an on-premise customer, your entitlements are in the Precisely Data experience. You are notified when those updates are made, and you can download those, or you can set up an SDK um, to automatically access that data. If you are accessing our data via the APIs or through the data integrity suite, we are updating that data for our customers in the background. So whatever you access is the most updated to date data that we have available. But again, it's a really good question that if you've got a supplier that you're talking to, make sure you understand the update cycle and what is involved in that update. Is it, you want to know, are they bringing in fresh postcodes? Are they updating attribution? All of those things, really, really important questions to ask and understand.
Okay, cool. Very, very nice. And then lots of questions about data, of course. That's the topic of the day. This person wants to know what's the availability of the data, and do you have international data?
We certainly do. So, as I set out when we were talking about our portfolio, our portfolio is on the whole global. So, we provide global coverage. There are a number of areas that's a bit more limited. So, our address and property portfolio is currently available in the US, Australia, and France, and our risk data is US and Australia. But when we talk about points of interest, boundaries, demographics, streets, all of those are global data sets. And some of them are designed purely as a global data set. So we talk about something like a World Boundaries premium product. It provides global coverage of um, postcodes, admin geographies, neighborhoods, land use, and disputed territories. We have lots of customers using that to understand location. So, absolutely, it is. And I think another point really to make is what's important around our global portfolio is the consistency of the data. So if you buy POIs or boundaries or demographics in the US, in Australia, in South Africa or Singapore, it's all the same structure. You're going to get the same experience with every single one of the products. The contents might be quite different, but the structure, the file structure is consistent. So you know what you're going to get in each country.
Excellent. I love that worldwide international availability there. What about the Precisely ID? They're wanting to know, can they attach the Precisely ID to internal data sets, or is that just for your own data at Precisely?
No, the Precisely ID is there for our customers. So yeah, absolutely, it helps us connect our data together, but our customers can't exploit that without having it. So the Precisely ID can be appended to addresses. We have that available for 14 countries at the moment, including obviously US, Canada, Australia, and France, and such like. And what we do is provide software and data capabilities to be able to append that Precisely ID onto your internal data. That is through our geo addressing capabilities. And once you have it on there, all of our data, where there's a Precisely ID, we link all of our data sets. And if you say buy a boundary data set in the US, within that will be a lookup between the Precisely ID and all of those geographies. So you can immediately get that connection. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Very nice. And then, Andy, in your presentation, you talked about how enrichment helps with data validation. They're asking here, can you explain how third-party data helps to validate data?
Absolutely. It means you may have some internal data that's telling you certain things about a customer. They may have provided, say, a list of attributes about the property that they want to insure. By coming to a third party data set, you can then validate, is that right? Or are there questions? about that data that you would need to then go back and maybe ask some more questions of that customer. So, absolutely, you can use that enrichment data to validate your own internal data. And that might be also around being able to locate that address. So that adding an XY coordinate and locating it, is it where the customer says it is? Are you in or outside a flood zone? So being able to validate that information, absolutely, that's a key part of being able to provide enrichment data.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm afraid we're running out of time here in our live Q&A session. For any of the folks out there, we didn't get to your question. We'll do our best to get back to you. If you still have a question on your mind, it's not too late. Drop it there in the questions box. And I want to give a big thank you to Andy for the great presentation. Thanks for being on, Andy.
Thank you very much, David. It's great, and thank you very much for everybody for listening in.
And now it's my pleasure to announce the winner of our Amazon $250 gift card. This is going to Scott Mann of Illinois. Congratulations to Scott Mann of Illinois. We'll reach out to you to deliver your Amazon gift card. We'll also reach out to our best question prize winner. Again, big thank you to our sponsor, Precisely, for making this event possible. I hope you learned a lot and have a great day. See you next time. Bye-bye.